Hello and welcome to Module 6. This is the lecture part 2, Effective Grading Practices in Middle School and High School Environments. So for this module's lecture, this part 2 in particular, it will require you to watch the videos at a separate time. The videos were too long to integrate into an actual lecture, and also remember I mentioned before, I know some of you mentioned experiencing the audio being doubled. So to fix that, you have the option of viewing on your own. But remember, you will have to provide some type of accountability in regards to watching the videos by answering questions in the video discussion. That's a group activity, or the whole class, because I'm treating it as a whole class collaboration as opposed to separate groups. You get to choose who you respond to within our larger group, but in a collaborative way. So anywho, I think that middle school and high school settings, which are very different from elementary settings, present a lot of challenges for educators in regards to the best approaches to get the job done. So it's no secret that we're bombarded with requirements of testing, and I think elementary schools has their the settings have their own challenges as well, especially with regards to teaching independence and starting to formulate some of those concepts of what it means to be a learner, what it means to be in a classroom, and how to effectively do some of the formative skills that students have yet to acquire. In middle and high school, there seems to be extreme restrictions on teaching time, especially when it comes to the regulated testing and MAPS assessments. If you have those in between quarterly progressions that show where the student is going to be skill-wise for the end of the term. So there's a lot of pressure, and I get it. So the whole purpose of these readings was to help you kind of combat the things that you can't change, right? So you can't change the fact that the school has mandated testing schedule and also requirements that you have to teach, especially in the science curriculum. They have their set, and then you have to do what you need to do to make sure that you've hit every single corner, also in social studies. So I figured I would bring to you a different view of what you can do, and the videos that are part of this lecture really help to show a lot of cool things. I mean, I enjoyed them, and I think that you will too, and you can be able to pick up a few things that you can integrate even tomorrow, if not next year, for to improve the outcome of your classes overall, and how you differentiate the requirements that you have to meet as teachers. So the lecture overview is pretty simple. I wanted to examine methods of moving from differentiated instruction to differentiated assessment in secondary education settings. Everyone knows what differentiation instruction is, but what it looks like in the process and then how it correlates to your assessment, I think is oh, what does that look like? That's the kind of mystery, because everyone defines it, everyone says you should use it, best practices, blah, blah, blah. But how do you really put it into play on a daily basis? And that's what this kind of gets to. I wanted to also explore alternatives to current grading practices using differentiated assessment approaches that current teachers are doing now. And I think some of these methods can be applied to any setting, any of the middle or high school settings, and also the elementary settings, depending on the level. Obviously, pre-K through kindergarten may not be able to use majority of these, but maybe third grade to fifth grade you might be able to apply a lot of them. So we'll see. You let me know, or I'll read in your response how these things work. Okay, moving on. So here are the readings for this week. As I mentioned last time, we're gonna just jump right in, and the first reading is from differentiated instruction to differentiated assessment. And it gives you some pointers and some methods of getting to the actual differentiated process that leads to the sound alignment to the differentiated assessment for classroom settings. Obviously, you can't change the end of course exam, but you can change your classroom assessments, summative assessments, that then hopefully integrate the skills that they need to show competencies on their end of course exams. So I thought this was a great article that I found online, and I just made it into a webpage version so you can have access to it, all the copyright information and more information to how to get anything else from the article is within this page. So the cool thing is that scholars and those people are in the field are recognizing the challenges of using differentiated instruction. So they get it. So this kind of looks into some practical ideas for teachers. So the first thing there are 3 of the 4 practical ideas that I'm going to talk about. The one is from a perspective as if you're not a teacher, so you don't really need to focus in on that, but these 3 seem like they would help. So keys to motivation and engagement are mentioned, and it says if we were to synthesize evidence on student motivation and engagement, there are 3 overlapping concepts that are essential: choice, power, and competence. So all these things need to be placed into what you do. I had never heard about homework menus. Until there's this teacher that I worked with, her name was Mrs. Richardson, and she always said, we got to get the menus, and I'm like, what is this lady talking about? So this kind of explains a little bit more, and I was glad to find these because I was like so puzzled about her menus. She loved menus, and I never realized how effective they were until I looked at the results of her classrooms. But differentiated instruction means nothing when every student is told to finish the same 15 problems with instructions such as complete the odd numbers 1 through 30. So a better approach is the homework menu. You can then give students the options of what they can complete. It does take a little bit of work to set up, but once you have these things set up, the menu, it works. I've seen it in action. It's a great useful tool. So they have the example here. And showing you how you can make this more a differentiated approach to students, especially for those of you who have like an extreme amount of homework you have to use. If you find that the menus work with homework, why not put them into your daily practice? Which I thought was interesting because it has a way for you to create an assessment menu. So I'll look for some examples to add in. I have not seen some hard examples of assessment menus, but I'm pretty sure that they are out there. So I'll see if I find some and add them as a resource. But they state here, rather than the all or nothing approach that is typical of large projects, the menu system gives the students several other alternatives. They can earn 200 points by completing 4 50-point projects or 10 20-point projects. So there's 2 things going on. It goes beyond the choice board, I feel, because the student choice board only has a select amount, a number of things that they can do, but here they have multiple options with multiple different project points that they can earn. So it lets the student know, number one, that you have many opportunities to earn the points that you need and several pathways to get there to the points that you desire. So that's kind of cool. If you want to read a little further into that, you can. And then the last reading for this week discusses closing the gap between frustration and success, which I feel is so heavy within the middle and high school settings. Students alone have so many challenges, family, social, personal growth areas that are just happening all at the same time. So I feel like trying to decrease that gap of the frustration and success when it comes to academic work is super important. So this article here, I should bring it up over here really quickly because my time is running out. I'm sticking to the 10 minutes as much as I can. So this one is written in a way that gives, and if you go to the actual website, you'll see the lecture there, the small video, which I didn't include, but you can go and look at it. I have links to both of these articles at the end of this with the resources, and it's also in the readings. So if you want to download the PowerPoint, you have access to them. But this here is about teaching and learning in diverse ways. So it gives you some additional approaches for exactly, and I like their their example, or their way of kind of the analogy to exploring part of the journey. We are a part of students' journeys. So look at the 4 pathways to get there, examine the destination. Remember that you should be planning from the backwards into the beginning model, where you're backwards design model, where you're considering what you want the students to achieve and how they need to get there. That's the mapping out the journey part. So here, a teacher needs to take into account many variables to determine how she or he can assess students in getting back on the road quickly and safely, and also accommodating for what the pathway should look like in regards to showing the competencies or the skills that you're requiring students to know. And then fuel up the car. I thought that was a really good one. But igniting students' passion and filling their think tank is as crucial as mapping out the journey. In order for students to take charge of their learning, they need to know their navigator is right beside them through this journey, and they are never going to be stranded or left in the dust. So supportive mechanisms in between, and also methods of ensuring that all students are cared for within the process. So fueling up their think tank, and then enjoy the ride. So throughout the process, obviously, of teaching any curriculum unit, you all know that you have teachable moments, disguised as detours or roadblocks, or you may discover a new pathway. So you need to be very flexible. If you create homework menus that don't work, or you need to make modifications, make those things quickly. Be open and honest about the pathway to get there, and also share with students that they're supported within these challenges. So it says at the bottom here, use challenges as opportunities to enhance students' abilities to provide and to problem solve. So that concludes a little bit of the intro into the readings. I'm trying to stick to a shorter period of time for lecturing. The next part of this are the videos, so stay tuned, and I hope that you're having a great week. Bye.